It's a show where we watch movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spot. Basically, movies we haven't seen, but we're fixing that for you. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And this... Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I interrupted you.
Held on to that a little too long. Sorry.
No, it's all right. This week, we're watching some movies that I have never seen. And to start the week off, I'm going to toss it over to Andy with the first movie we're watching. What are we watching?
All right. Rupert Pupkin desperately wants to make it into the world of stand-up comedy. And he's obsessed with Jerry Langford, a longtime stand-up comic with his own late-night talk show, a la Johnny Carson.
Yep.
I almost said Jolly Carson. Johnny Carson. Rupert's obsession threatens to manifest itself, if I could speak, in a dangerous way in The King of Comedy.
Come on, people. Jerry, I'm sorry. I don't mean to disturb you. I don't want to take up any of your time. I just want to talk to you for a minute. I just need you to
Hey,
drive.
this is not the time.
If we could just drive away, you could drop me off anywhere. If I could just talk to you, I would drive. I'm
Drive
serious.
away. No, I have a very strict rule about people getting in the car.
I hate to bring this up, Mr. Langford. I don't mean to be rude, but I did put myself in a line for you.
Go ahead, Harvey. Hit it.
There. Thanks. Is that your initials?
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, Jerry, my name is Rupert Pupkin, and I know the name doesn't mean very much to you, but it means an awful lot to me. Believe.
Calm down.
I'm
Calm
a
down.
little
Take your
nervous. I'm a
time.
little nervous.
So The King of Comedy came out in 1983. It was directed by none other than Martin
You're right. Yeah, never mind.
Martin Scorsese. It was written by Paul Zimmerman, and honestly, I think I looked at what else he'd written, and then it was not. I don't want to say it was nothing else, but basically, I think The King of Comedy is his big claim to fame.
Yeah.
And the movie was, I only bring this up because she's worked with Martin Scorsese for 50 gazillion years. It was edited by Thelma Schoonmaker. She's edited a lot of Scorsese's films. Not all, but quite a few. She's an 8-time Oscar nominee, and she's won 3 times, all for Martin Scorsese films. Incidentally, Martin Scorsese's, but he's been nominated for director and adapted screenplay and stuff like that. I think he has a total, if you count all of his nominations, 14 nominations, but he's only won once.
Wow.
So that's crazy. But he has one. He does have an Oscar, but Thelma Schoonmaker has 3. And then the music soundtrack for The King of Comedy, I want to mention it because the kind of so it uses a lot of popular kind of songs, pre-existing songs, but it also has some orchestral kind of music that's done by Bob James. I think I've mentioned Bob James on this show before. He's been a jazz musician for friggin' ever. I think he's 80 something. But if you've ever listened to any hip hop whatsoever, chances are you've heard some sort of Bob James sample, because his music has been sampled quite a bit. But the music production, so the music was produced by Robbie Robertson. Robbie Robertson met Martin Scorsese when Martin Scorsese did The Last Waltz, which is a documentary about, I think, the final concert of the band, which Robbie Robertson was a member, and so they kind of started having a working relationship after that. So Robbie Robertson worked on Raging Bull, and he worked on King of Comedy. He worked on The Color of Money, which we did a long time ago.
Yeah,
I feel like a long time ago. But anyway, so the cast: Robert De Niro plays Rupert Pupkin. Y'all know who Robert De Niro is. I don't think he needs any introduction. Jerry Lewis plays Jerry Langford, so not much of a stretch, just changed the last name, but it still starts with the same letter. Now, that role was actually offered to Johnny Carson.
Oh, really?
Speaking of Johnny Carson, even though I called him Jolly Carson. But Carson turned it down. He's like, nah, no thanks. Sandra Bernhard plays Masha. Sandra Bernhard was a stand-up comic already at this point. She'd been doing stand-up comedy since the 1970s. And in fact, and I was not aware of this, she worked with Richard Pryor on the Richard Pryor Show. He had a short-lived kind of sketch comedy sort of show where he did things. I've seen some clips from the show, but I've never seen one with Sandra Bernhard. But apparently she was on the show, so good for her.
She's Bunny in Hudson Hawk.
She is Bunny.
Classic role.
Diane Abbott plays Rita Keene. Diane Abbott actually was married to Robert De Niro at this time. They were a married couple in real life. They got married in the mid-70s, I believe, and got divorced in the late 80s. So I think about 5 years after this movie, they got divorced. They call it quits. They split. This has also Shelley Hack as Kathy Long. Shelley Hack was on Charlie's Angels, I think, for 1 season. Ed Hurley plays the announcer on the Jerry Langford Show. He's playing himself. And then Dr. Joyce Brothers, Tony Randall, and Victor Borga also all played themselves. And if you look fast, you'll see at the very beginning of the movie when Rupert is waiting outside for Jerry Langford to come out, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is standing virtually right next to Robert De Niro. If you look, I mean, you don't have to look that hard. She's pretty easy to see, but you don't know she's there unless you're looking for her, probably.
I didn't know.
And then a little bit later in the movie, when Sandra Bernhard and Robert De Niro are arguing kind of on the sidewalk, there's a few members of the God, I cannot talk today. There's a few members of the band The Clash on the sidewalk. There's 3 members, actually. And this movie was a family affair. Martin Scorsese has a small part in it. His mother actually plays Rupert Pupkin's mother. You don't ever see her, but you do hear her voice. Mm-hmm. She's like, Rupert, what are you doing down there? His father plays just a man in a bar whenever Rupert comes in towards the end of the film and watches himself on TV. Yeah. His father's in there.
Oh, was he the guy at the end who's like, hey, that man was on TV?
No, he's just another guy that's sitting there. He does have a line, though, or a line or two. And then Martin Scorsese's daughter has a small part whenever Rupert is having basically a fantasy about eating with Jerry and a girl comes up and asks for his autograph. That's Martin Scorsese's daughter. So a lot of Scorsese people in this film. Anyway, this is a movie that I have seen twice before. This is the 3rd time that I've seen it.
Magic 3 again.
Magic 3, I know. Well, I think the one on Wednesday, same thing. So, but I know this is a movie that you've never seen. I do know that you've seen Joker because we saw it together.
Yeah.
And I know you weren't very favorable on Joker, but I know that you've heard that this movie definitely influenced Joker. Yeah. So I guess what did you know about the King of Comedy other than it sort of was an influence on Joker? And did you like it better or worse than Joker?
All right. So I didn't know much about this movie. I did learn more about it when Joker came out because there was a lot of comparisons to that, and a lot of people were drawing a line between De Niro's character, Rupert Pupkin, and Joaquin Phoenix's character, the Joker, but also that Robert De Niro plays a talk show host. Mm-hmm. And then in this movie, he's all about trying to become a talk show host. So people were having fun with that. And I saw on IMDb, someone posted a video, sorry.
No, I was going to say, they both take place in the 80s. Yeah. Because Joker takes place in the 80s. If you didn't know, sorry.
And I saw a video where someone's like, is this in the same universe as that? And I'm like, well, Robert De Niro's character in both movies are different. So probably not, but I got that. Originally, I thought the original Kings of Comedy because of the original Kings of Comedy, I thought the King of Comedy was like a stand-up special or something like that. Like I didn't know much about it, but I was like, but I've seen like the original King of Comedy like box in the trailer, so I was like, oh, this is probably like following comedians from the 80s and stuff like that.
The original Kids Comedy, you mean like Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey stuff? Okay, yeah.
Because that was like that came out in like the video stores when I was young, and so I'm like, oh, they're just like it's a new generation of comedians, and this one's like a prior generation, right? No, not the same thing.
Right.
That was fixed with the Joker. So to answer your question, I do like this movie better than Joker. I think it's more well done. More well done. I don't even know if that's grammatically correct. I think
doesn't matter.
I think it's a better movie overall. And I do think knowing this movie exists does take a little bit away from Joker in my eyes, a little bit that it had because.
So Joker's even worse now?
I guess so. Because it's just like it is like it feels like it's really borrowing but not changing enough. You know what I mean? It's like really just like taking the palette, taking the not like the physical palette, but taking like the ideas, the look, the feel from this and Taxi Driver and just really like not really transforming it too much, just applying a clown prince of mayhem on it and then putting it in a movie, right? It didn't feel like it was derived and changed and transformed, I think. But that could be a error in my memory of Joker 2 because it's been 3 years since the Joker came out.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say because I rewatched Joker. For the record, I like Joker, but I rewatched it not too long ago, and I feel like there's enough differences there. Yeah. But I don't expect you to watch it again.
Yeah, Joker. Oh yeah,
Joker.
You're not going to try to convince me to watch it again.
I mean, yeah. There's plenty of other movies to watch. Yeah.
So I overall like this movie. It's just the hard thing for me for this movie is it's just, and I read that behind the scenes, I think Scorsese and De Niro felt this a little bit, is that Rupert Pupkin is a lot to take on, and it's really hard for me to root for a character that is this out of touch with reality and all that kind of stuff. Like I like watching it and I like seeing him all this stuff, but it really is just it's hard for me to empathize and be on board for so long with someone that is this like deranged and out of touch and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's well done and it's interesting take. I still think my favorite Scorsese movie is still the sequel to The Hustler we just mentioned a second ago.
The Color of Money.
The Color of Money.
Yeah.
I still think I like that a little bit more, but I do think I like this, and I've seen the bits I've seen of Taxi Driver. Like I like this kind of version of Scorsese a little bit more when they delve into, someone being kind of crazy and deranged and all that kind of stuff. But it's just hard to kind of overall watch a person that's like so detached in this movie.
Yeah.
And the other thing I had hard time like getting my mind wrapped around is how obsessed he is with Jerry Langford, right? Mm-hmm. Because like I was trying to draw a parallel to like Johnny Carson or like Jack Parr or Steve Allen, and maybe because those hosts of the Tonight Show were before my time, and I kind of grew up with Jay Leno and now Jimmy Fallon, all that kind of stuff, and I just don't see the fervent fan of those hosts like I guess it was back in that time, or before that time.
Yeah.
Because I just can't imagine someone like I've met people that wanted to be talk show hosts and stuff like that, but they weren't like as obsessed and as maybe that's a good thing as Rupert was for him, and I just can't imagine. I guess it should happen, but I would imagine more people would be lined up behind the Tonight Show trying to get a glimpse at the guest or get a signature from
like
the
a
guest.
boy band member or something.
Yeah, rather than I would like getting Jimmy Fallon's signature and stuff like that.
Right.
And not to dismiss him, but
that makes sense.
It's interesting that he's so obsessed with that and so wants to get on it. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's an interesting like dive into all this stuff because a lot of the time I think and probably you when you're watching, you're like, dude, if you just kind of did this differently or went at this a different way, like things would kind of go in your favor, but you're just looking at the world so wrong, or you're so forceful in it that you're just making it harder for yourself and all that kind of stuff. Because as soon as he meets, I think it's Kathy, it seems like she's interested in helping him out and like giving him the thing, but and she listened to his tape or said she did. I think Kathy's the right character. Right?
Yeah.
She listened to his tape and said, "Hey man, you just need some time and stuff like that." And it's like, hey, he could do that. He could work his way up, but he just wanted to get on the show like that instant, stuff like that. So it's like I said, overall, I liked it. It's interesting just kind of how and the word I keep on landing on is just deranged. How off base Rupert Pupkin is and all that kind of stuff. So, but I enjoyed my time with it and stuff like that. So I'm going to toss it over to you. You said that it's your third time watching it. So what'd you remember about King of Comedy before now? What'd you think about it? And then what do you think about its comparison to Joker?
Yeah, this is yet another one of those movies that, I think this is better than Joker, even though I like Joker. This is one of those movies, though, that I, once again, saw a long time ago, like when I was young. And I liked it, but I don't know that I really got a whole lot out of it. But I've rewatched it in the last 5 years or so. So I remembered, I think, most of it. It's interesting. This is the first time that I've seen it post Joker, though. Yeah. So it is interesting, kind of seeing some of the parallels that they have, and you can definitely see the inspiration, obviously, that it has on Joker. I like what you said about. First of all, I completely agree with you, and I think. Many of the critics that are fans of this movie would agree with you. This movie is good, but it is hard to watch because he is so frustrating. It's frustrating to watch him because of the way that he acts, the obsession that he has. And it's funny because, and that's one of the things I like about the movie is, and obviously we spoil movies when we talk about them on the show, but one of the things that I really love about this movie is he's actually good at comedy. When he does the stand-up routine, And when he does the stand-up routine on the show, I think it's funny, and I think the audience thinks it's funny as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's good because you expect him to get out there and be like Joaquin Phoenix is in Joker and just absolutely hear crickets, right? But everybody is laughing. You didn't think any of the stuff he said when he was on stage was funny? Like when he finally goes on.
I didn't.
Really?
It's interesting.
I think his routine is really funny.
I think so. It's interesting. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I think what I thought was really interesting for Robert De Niro was that he was doing like the mannerisms and he was doing like the inflections like a comedian would, but it wasn't like really selling the comedy and stuff like that. So I thought there was one thing that was kind of funny, but I thought in my mind people were laughing because this guy has like a national stage, so they're already prepped.
They have a laughter and applause kind of sign.
Well, maybe, but they're in the mood to laugh. They know this guy's a comedian. He's on the show for a reason, so they think he's funny. So they're more willing to laugh at anything he says. And he's doing like the comedic thing, like the way he inflects things and the way he kind of talks. But to me, like the stuff he says isn't that funny. And like I think even when they go around to do like the book stuff at the end, I think it's all like almost like he became this phenomenon just because he did that thing, and otherwise he wouldn't exist at all. And it's not because of his talent or anything like that. And almost the way you say it sounds like he had the talent and he would have probably made it anyways. I'm putting the words in your mouth on that one, but he kind of had the talent and he would have been successful with that talent. I don't see it that way.
I think that he is funny when he goes out. I'll put it to you this way, even though we're not to Wednesday yet. I think what he says on stage is funnier than just about everything that's in the movie that we're going to talk about on Wednesday. To be honest with you,
I both think.
And
I think it's interesting because it's kind of like when you build something around like someone being really good at comedy or someone being really good at writing or all that kind of stuff. The expectation is that it's going to be good, and I think both of the movies don't really. So I agree with you. Wednesday's not funny. But I also don't think he's funny at all either. So
sorry, we're jumping ahead. We haven't gotten to Wednesday. But.
But I always think that's like a fault of like, hey, if you're building something up where someone's like really good at that, then it's like you got to be really good at that yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But, I think that's one of the things that's one of the things in the movie that really subverts your expectations is that you expect him to go out there and bomb because he's an annoying guy and you think he has no talent. But he actually does have talent. It's the way he goes about trying to get his foot in the door that everybody finds so off-putting. He shoots himself in the foot. And so the way that I see the movie is that I think that Kathy Long, the Kathy Long character, we keep saying Kathy, it's basically like the assistant kind of to Mr. Langford, to Jerry Lewis's character. She says, we listened to the tape and we thought it's funny, but you're just not quite there yet. I think they probably thought it was decent, but they're like, this guy's annoying. Like, we don't want him to, so she just says him that because he won't leave the waiting room and he like keeps bothering everybody. And I love the fact that Scorsese cuts whenever he goes out on stage and he's about to do his routine. He cuts and you only see it whenever he goes to the bar and you see it through the TV. And that way it's not like a fantasy. Because some stuff in the movie you're like, wait, is this fantasy? Is reality? And I personally think that all of that stuff with like he was released from prison today and now he's got this, I think that's all in his mind. That's what I think.
Okay, so for me, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
For me, I think I take Kathy at her word, which is that he is not good enough and all that kind of stuff. And I need to rewatch the comedy scene because I don't remember like the audience being in stitches. I just remember like a few chuckles here and there. And
they're laughing the whole time.
I do remember like building, but I still think they were in stitches. And I think all the stuff that happens afterwards plays for real. Like I do think he goes to jail and all that kind of stuff and has like a
I think he goes to jail, but after that it's kind of like narration and you see it like through a TV screen kind of his fantasies, some of his fantasies look like they're not all of them, but some of his fantasies like when he gets married to Diane Rita is the character. When he gets married to Rita, that's shown basically as it's being viewed through a TV camera.
Yeah, because he does the film format change like Tony Scott.
Right. So and I will say this though, this is the first time that I've ever thought that. The other two times I watched this, I did, but this time I thought, is this just all in his mind? Like he got released from prison and he got like a book because it has that TV kind of look, and it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Rupert Pupkin. Rupert Pupkin. The guy just keeps saying it. He's like, okay, give it up for Rupert Pupkin. Rupert Pupkin. And then it slowly zooms in on his face and he's just like, thank you. And then it cuts to black and that's it. So I was like, that's probably just, and again, I don't think there's any answers. I don't think Scorsese or anybody has ever come out and said, it's up for interpretation. But I like that about the movie. I like that, at least to me, it subverts my expectations because I expect him to go out and bomb, and I think he does really good. But I think the two principal things that make this movie very worth watching, like, again, we both like it, but we both are like, yeah, it's kind of cringy to watch because he's such an annoying character. But I think the two things that make it really, really worth a watch and worth your time is, I think Robert De Niro, it really plays the part well of Rupert Pupkin. Robert De Niro is one of those people that we always talk about, they kind of become like a cartoon, like a caricature.
It feels against type for him.
Yeah, totally. And so I think he's great as Rupert Pupkin, but I think Jerry Lewis, like, I'm glad Carson said no, because I think Jerry Lewis is fabulous as Jerry Langford, because I think, if you've seen any Jerry Lewis comedy, he's very manic. He was like Jim Carrey before Jim Carrey, right? Like, he contorted his face. And like, well, hey, like Professor Freak on The Simpsons is kind of borrowing from, he was influenced by Jerry Lewis. Yeah, I mean, he's just like, making like weird. So you expect him to kind of wink at the audience, like he's in on the joke, but he plays it dead serious. Yeah. I don't think Jerry Lewis has any funny lines in this movie except for when he's actually filming the TV show. The rest of the time, when he's like off stage, he's like over it. He's like, I have to deal with these crazy people. I love when he's walking down the street, and some people are like, hey, they see him and they're like, hey, can I get your autograph? And the one lady's on the payphone. She's like, hey, do this. And he's like, I gotta go. She's like, I hope you get cancer or whatever. And apparently that was like a real life thing,
I was gonna
right?
ask if a lot of that man on the street stuff apparently, and I was reading in the trivia, so that he wanted the first characters, he wanted the name of the character to be the same as his first name because he wanted to do a lot of that man on the street stuff. Right. But I agree with that. I think also, like, the stuff he says to is the people that are his butler, I guess, the people that are taking care of his house. I thought it was funny.
Well,
like,
when
the guy had
but
trouble with the
mean.
doors.
It's like mean funny.
But I do.
It is funny.
I'm with you 100%. I think his casting is brilliant, and he's just like so put upon and so over everything that's going on in his life and stuff like that. And you really see like the burden that fame kind of brings, because he can't even walk. Like, he can't even get to his car after a show because, like, as you see, like, Rupert kind of pretends to want to protect him, and then only to get into try to get his own way into, being on his show and stuff like that. Right. And then he walks down the street and everyone's like calling at him or catcalling him, cheerleading him, or all that kind of stuff.
It's uncomfortable to me to watch the movie because when like that first night when they do meet, and then Rupert gets out, and Jerry's just trying to get in the door.
Yeah, and he just keeps on talking.
And he just keeps walking up the steps. Well, let me show you my picture of my Pride and Joy, and it's like a joke. It's like Pride and Joy, the cleaning products and or whatever. So
thought that was going to come around to his stand-up. Like, I thought that was going to be something he invented. Yeah. Like, I didn't know if that. I've heard that joke before, obviously, but I didn't know if this movie kind of coined the joke, or were trying to say in the context of the movie that he coined that joke. But I thought that would definitely come around to when he did stand-up, and I was surprised because I was expecting, Chekhov's Pride and Joy.
Oh, really? Yeah. He's whipped that card out.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the lady that's on the payphone, that's like, I hope you get cancer or whatever. This is a little bit off topic maybe, but that reminds me of, I saw a video one time of, there was a lady trying to get an autograph from Busta Rhymes, the rapper. And he was like, I can't, I gotta go. And she was really nice at first, right? She's like, oh, I love you, or whatever. Can I get your autograph or what? And I don't remember if it's for her, it's for her son or something. But he's like, lady, I gotta go. Like, I can't do it. Just like Jerry Lewis does in the movie. And she immediately starts getting really angry and like calling him names and doing other stuff. And finally, he's just like, lady, I gotta go take a shit. Like, it wasn't like he's just blowing her off. He's like, I gotta go take a dump over here. Like leave me alone, whatever. I thought it was hilarious. That's one of the funniest clips I've seen.
Well, that reminds me, again, off topic, is I ran into Redman on the way out of a bathroom, and like I was just like,
Redman,
on the way out of the bathroom, and I'm like, I didn't want to be one of those annoying fans. I just go, hey man, I dig your music, and then we kind of just crossed. But then, like later on while I was waiting for my flight in the terminal, I saw like more and more people kind of like huddling towards him and stuff like that. And I was like, hopefully he thought that was a cool interaction of me being like, hey man, I dig your music. I'm not going to bother you.
Right. You weren't bothering him.
Yeah.
After,
Yeah. He didn't have to yell at me like bust to bust.
I gotta take a shit, lady. No, that was funny. So the other thing I wanted to say about this movie is it's interesting watching it, I think, because it came out in the early 1980s, and this was right after Mark David Chapman had killed John Lennon. John Hinckley Jr. had tried to kill President Reagan, and he was trying to impress Jodie Foster when he did it. And I didn't mention it when we talked about I Want to Hold Your Hand because I didn't want to like bring the room down like I'm prone to do. But Teresa Saldana, who I talked about, I really like her in I Want to Hold Your Hand. Yeah. She was attacked in 1982 by some crazed fan and stabbed with a knife, like a hunting knife, and it punctured her lung. And I mean, it was like a horrible thing. Yeah. She recovered, but so the early 80s, and it's not to say that, crazed fans don't attack celebrities now because they do.
I thought you were drawing the point that
things
haven't changed because I'm like, you're right. But
yeah.
Go on.
No. I mean, definitely that still happens, but I feel like, and I don't know what the frequency. I don't know if those kinds of attacks have waned somewhat. Yeah. I don't know, how many of those happen in a year or whatever. But I feel like nowadays, because people can interact directly with celebrities via Twitter and all these social media kinds of things, and they have ways to kind of connect with people that they still might be obsessed with them, but they can sort of have that outlet, right? They can kind of, rather than like just waiting outside their house. Not to say that fans don't still do that, because they do. Yeah. But I think it's interesting just the time period when this came out, because it's right on the heels, like I say, of like Mark David Chapman and John Hinckley Jr. So this kind of thing was very much happening, I guess, at that time. So I think that this movie is what's the word I'm looking for? It's not appropriate, but it. I think it.
Percent.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's interesting, when it came out when it did, because I feel like you're right on the heels of all these.
That's interesting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I see what you're saying. I'm wondering if the stuff. I think it's interesting. I would actually want to look and see if, because of Twitter and more. More media icons being online, if that has reduced the number of bad incidents and stuff like that. I don't know. That's interesting.
I'm sure. Like I say, I know that crazed fans still attack celebrities, but I wonder if maybe I should say it that way. I wonder if it has kind of lessened that, because they can still be crazy, but at least they can just keep sending DMs or whatever to their favorite celebrity or something like that. I don't know. But couldn't do that back in 1983. So you had to try and kidnap them and get on their talk show.
One last digression. It reminds me of a story. I think a crazed fan broke into Harry Styles of One Direction and also popular recording artist, his house, and was obsessed with him. And what he did was he spent the time she was with him, I guess while he was trying to get her out or getting other people to get her out, complaining about his life. And then at that point, this is all hearsays. I don't know how valid this is, but apparently because he was just complaining about his life, she basically lost interest. It was
God, you're lame.
Ready to go. Yeah. So this is so that's what it is. This fantasy that these crazy people think that they can get.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, no, my life really sucks.
I feel really bad for Rita in this movie, because she gets dragged along and she doesn't know that how out of touch Rupert is, right?
Yeah.
He kind of tells her this the way he maybe perceives himself that's not necessarily in touch with reality. And she's like, yeah, if you came up to me and you're like, hey, you want to go to Jimmy Fallon's place? I'll be like, yeah, of course I want to go to Jimmy Fallon's place. How would I turn that down? And then all of a sudden she's stuck in this.
I should do that and just hire a Jimmy Fallon lookalike.
You should.
You're like, is that really Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah.
Looks like him.
But she's stuck in this very awkward situation. And then she's trying to apologize her way out of it. And she's like, I'm sorry, Jerry, I didn't know he said this. I'm sorry, I didn't know. It's crazy. It was very uncomfortable to be witnessing that thing take place and stuff like that. But I think that's what the movie was trying to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It gets under your skin. Yeah, I think she's the most sympathetic character in the movie, arguably, because I mean, you could say Jerry Langford is, but I don't think he is. I mean, I don't think he's an asshole or anything like that, but he's just so world weary and beaten down. I don't think you feel bad for him necessarily, but yeah, I think the character of Rita is definitely the most sympathetic character. And I know she's in Taxi Driver as well. But I didn't really look at her filmography, so I mean I can't recall seeing her in much.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a shame, but I don't know. I know she's still alive. I did look that up.
So anything else you want to add about the King of Comedy?
The only thing I want to say is that this movie bombed at the box office. It was a box office flop, but it was critically well received, and I think over the years it's gained more of an audience on home media. De Niro, speaking of crazy fans, went on to do the movie The Fan. You mentioned Tony Scott. It's directed by Tony Scott, where he plays
baseball fan.
Right, he's obsessed with Wesley Snipes.
Oh,
I don't remember the team, honestly.
Yeah.
I honestly, I saw it a long time ago and I hated it.
Yeah, I don't think it was good. I saw it too. He like call him.
De Niro's like a knife salesman.
Yeah, and he like sends like a tattoo or like cuts off the guy's tattoo or something like that, and it's like in the locker.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I did not like that movie. But so De Niro has not only played a crazy fan in The King of Comedy, but he's a crazy fan in the movie The Fan. This movie's 89% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, 90% audience score. It did get 2 thumbs up. Roger Ebert, so I watched some of their review at the movies, and Roger Ebert said, yeah, the first time I saw this, I think I kind of hated it. But he said, then I saw it again, and I began to appreciate. Yeah. But he's like, yeah, it's hard to watch, just like we've said, and again, like I think a lot of critics said, it's hard to watch this guy. But it did get 2 thumbs up. And Leonard Maltin gives it 3.5 stars. So,
all right.
Good scores all around.
Well, that was our review. I don't know. That was a discussion, I guess, of Kings of Comedy.
Pontification.
Let us know. Yeah, we pontifize. Let us know down below if you're watching this YouTube in the comments whether you think he did good in the stand-up act or he did bad. I'd be curious to see where everyone falls. I could be in the minority. Hey, I watched it for the first time, so there's a lot of things that you miss when you watch something for the first time.
Yeah.
It's what happens. It's the name of the show. That's what we do. So yeah, I'm curious to see where everyone falls on that.
Me too.
It'd be interesting. All right, and on these Monday episodes, that's what today is. Today is a Monday. We like to talk about what we've been watching. So you alluded that you rewatched The Joker. Have you watched anything else that you like to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't gotten a whole lot of time. Excuse me, I ate right before we filmed, so
I'm gonna say the same thing.
I'm a little bloated, so I have not watched a whole lot, but I did watch. I'm wearing a basketball cap for my favorite team, my favorite NBA team, the Dallas Mavericks. I watched the new Netflix movie with Adam Sandler.
Hustler.
Hustle. Not Hustler.
Hustlers.
Hustle. It stars Adam Sandler.
And half the NBA.
Queen Latifah plays his wife, and yes, it's got tons of past and present NBA players. Sometimes they're playing characters, like Kenny Smith actually plays like an old teammate of Adam Sandler's in the movie, and then sometimes they're not playing characters, like Dirk is in the movie, Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic is in the movie, Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, is in it. But there's plenty of other non-Mavericks players, and Boban Marjanovic, who I don't think is a Maverick anymore, but he was a Maverick for a hot minute. But he's in it. He's playing a character. But yeah, so and then obviously the star other than Adam Sandler is Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who is a player in the NBA, and his brother, I believe, is in the movie as well. So basically, Adam Sandler, goes to where does he go? Is it Spain? Sorry, I can't remember where Hernan-Gomez is from. He goes somewhere, and he finds Hernan-Gomez. I believe it's Spain, because Jose Calderon is there. So it's got to be Spain, right? Jose Calderon is Spanish. So he goes to Spain. He finds Hernan-Gomez. Please don't kill me if I'm wrong. He brings him back. And just like I talked about Celtic Pride last week or whenever, and how
it's a terrible movie.
I can't stand it. But I did find it interesting that they use, they use the Celtics, obviously, because the movie's called Celtic Pride, but they also use the Utah Jazz. And you always wonder whenever they have actual teams in movies, how does the team feel about it, or how does the owner of the team feel about it? Because sometimes they don't always portray them. Like the Damon Wayans character in the Celtic Pride movie, he's the star player of the Utah Jazz, but he's kind of an asshole. Yeah. So it's like I wonder how the owner of the Jazz was like, thinking at that time.
Thanks.
And
Like,
in
thanks,
this
man.
movie, Adam Sandler works for the Philadelphia 76ers, which is obviously a real team. And the owner in the movie is played by Robert Duvall, and his son is played by Ben Foster. And Ben Foster is honestly kind of the villain of the movie.
Okay.
So I wonder how Pat Croce's the owner of the 76ers, if I'm not mistaken. I wonder how Pat Croce feels about Ben Foster being like the villain of the set. But I don't know. No, or even bad press is good, or bad publicity is good publicity. What's the saying? I don't know. Something like that. But I thought it was okay. I think I liked it more than anything just because it was cool seeing all the NBA stuff, and I'm a big NBA fan. I mean, the story is not bad, but it wasn't like, it didn't blow my socks off, But I thought it was okay. Again, I love seeing.
Is it better than Celtic Pride?
Oh yeah, well, Celtic Pride was terrible. So,
Okay, well, You did a lot of
I
comparison with
know.
Celtic Pride at the beginning of this.
No. Celtic Pride is like bottom of the barrel, like unfunny comedy. Like honestly, I think I like the movie on Wednesday better than Celtic Pride.
Is Hustle trying to be a comedy, or is it just like a drama?
No, I would say it's more of a drama. I mean, Adam Sandler plays a more dramatic role, but he definitely, he has some witty kind of zingers, and he makes fun of stuff, and he's he mutters stuff under his breath that's funny, whatever. So
is it
it's more dramatic.
So does he just like discover basketball players and bring them on the team?
What was that? Yeah, he's a scout.
What was that Disney movie that was like that? The Air Up There? Was it The Air Up There?
With Kevin Bacon? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a remake of The Air Up There.
It pretty much is.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a more dramatic.
I don't know where I pulled that from.
It's a more dramatic remake of The Air Up There. You got it. Maybe toss a little Air Bud in there, and I don't know.
Yeah, there you
go. All right, but that's all I've been watching. What have you been watching?
Have I talked about The Winning Time on the show? I know I've talked to you about it.
I don't know if you mentioned it on here. I'm not sure.
I mean, I like The Winning Time. I watched that. It's the only basketball adjacent thing I've kind of watched. I mean, we're not doing strictly basketball stuff.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think The Winning Time succeeds when it's more about, like, this. I don't think the audience knows this, but I love sports documentaries more than I like sports. And I love, like, behind the scenes, getting the team together, like, how the team is built. Like, the Wizard of... What's his name? The Wizard of Westbrook? Wizard of West...
Yeah, Westwood.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite sports documentaries because it talks about, like, what he did and how he built them and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I like the Phil Jackson's, like, 7 Rings or book and stuff like that. So I think The Winning Time succeeds when it's focused on, like, what they're doing to implement to get, the Showtime basketball playing working. And it doesn't succeed when it focuses on anything outside the court, like what's going on in Jerry Buss's life, what's going on in everyone else's life. So that's my short thing on The Winning Time. I know it's not your cup of tea, but I found that stuff enjoyable. It does this format change stuff all the time that is super annoying, and I think it uses it, and it's almost like a crutch for the show. And I think the show's better than it needs to use that for, right?
Yeah.
But so you're talking about basketball, made me think of that. What I've been watching recently is, like you, haven't had a whole lot of time to watch things, but me and Kirby have deep dived into the Great British Bake Off, or in the U.S., the Great British Baking Show, because Bake Off is trademarked, so they can't call it that here. It's the people who made the tin of rolls. I don't want to say it's Hostess, but maybe Pillsbury. Yeah, I think Pillsbury has Bake Off trademark, so they have to call it Great British Bake Show. There's some interesting things, like if you Google on the internet, like how they use computer effects to alter like the award and stuff like that for American audiences, so it doesn't show Bake Off to make it comply with all that stuff, which is like, it's crazy that they would use they pay someone to go in and manipulate the footage of this reality TV show so it can work within the states and stuff like that. So I really like this show a lot, and I don't think I'm adding anything new to the conversation, because a lot of people like the show and they'll talk about like how it's, it's a competition show, but it doesn't really feel like a really cutthroat competition show, and that's why I like it. They're not playing for like winning, and the show doesn't focus on like, my life is gonna change if I win this money and stuff like that. It's like they win like a cake dish, and stuff
Oh,
like
wow.
that. And everyone's just like doing it because they want to do well, they want to succeed, they want to get that recognition, but they're not like parlaying it into fame or parlaying it into like riches and all that kind of stuff. So it feels like more wholesome and more like intrinsically like they're doing this for intrinsic reasons, not like external reasons and all that kind of stuff, right? But that's what we've been watching a whole lot of. We've watched 3 seasons so far of it, and it's, you know, it's like 10 episodes, 10-hour-long episodes. So we've spent a lot of time watching it, you know, and it's fun. And we kind of, me and Kirby have this meta game going because one of the judges, Paul Hollywood, if he likes your food a lot, he'll give you a handshake, and it's a big deal. Of course, when we were watching it, we didn't know it was a big deal, but after you watch, you know, a couple seasons of it, you get like, oh, this is a big deal, and you learn the language of the show. And now what I do is I pay attention to the way they cut whenever they do their interviews, and if they ever like go to like a medium shot while he's giving the stuff, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a Paul.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, he's going to give a handshake. So I like kind of analyzing how that works and the editing so they can do that kind of stuff. And we've been deep diving into like the production of it and stuff like that, and like how they produce the show and all that kind of stuff, because for us that stuff's interesting. So enjoying the content, but also enjoying all the content on how it's being made. So we got a couple more seasons left on Netflix, and I don't know what we're gonna do. It was a fun little divergent from our normal watch and stuff like that. So that's why I've been watching the Great British Bake Off, Great British Baking Show. Late to it, but I know a lot of people love it. But and if you're on the fence, then I say at least watch the season. The COVID season's really good. Oh, the cool thing too that I really like is after the finale, they kind of catch back up with all the contestants and they talk about what they've been doing. And in a lot of them, the contestants like go out and like they're like, these guys are hanging out once a month, or these guys went on a road trip together and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool that like, you know, this show where they get together for 10 weeks on the weekends have turned into like friendships where they're actually hanging out post show and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, it kind of makes you, it warms your heart. It makes you.
It's bringing people together.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I've been watching.
Hands across America. Sorry.
Yeah, but not the Jordan Peele content.
No.
All right, is that it? So okay. We have to talk about what's coming up on Wednesday.
Yes.
So this week you did King of Comedy. What'd you decide to pair that movie with?
Yeah, so King of Comedy came out in the 1980s. It's all about somebody trying to make it, even though they're kind of a weird person. It's all about somebody trying to make it in the world of stand-up comedy. I decided to pair that with another movie that came out this time from the later 1980s, and this time about multiple people trying to make it in stand-up comedy, but really it focuses on 2 main people trying to make it in stand-up comedy. It's a movie that I don't feel like a lot of people are aware of, even people that have seen most of Tom Hanks' movies. So I decided to kind of shine a spotlight on it, and it's called Punchline. Talk about that on Wednesday.
All right, stay tuned for that on Wednesday. All right, guys, that was everything you want to know, Kings of Comedy and more. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff. It really helps with the show, and we really do appreciate it. And stay tuned Wednesday when we find out if Andy's going to laugh at all for the punchline. And it sounds like he's not. So we'll see you soon, guys. Have a good one. Bye.